Hi, and welcome back to Empowered Spirit Healing. My name is Paula, and today I have Jennifer with me from Ascension Energies and Sound. How are you going today, Jennifer?
I'm doing great, and I'm eager to talk about some more Casey stuff.
Yes, we are super excited to continue on with our series. This is episode 2, and today we want to talk to you all about the Akashic Records, which is a very, very interesting subject. So we've created a little slide again just to help you all just share some information with you. So I'm just going to open that up. So, the Akashic Records. So, there is an actual book written by Edgar Cayce on that. And there's also another book by Kevin Tadeusz, I believe. I'm not quite sure how to say his name, but it's available on, it is read by AI, but it is available on YouTube to listen to. It gets a little bit frustrating because when you're listening to it, he says case, or like the AI says case, not
Yes.
Casey. And
No
there's,
Casey.
and then it pauses where there's a full stop. So if there's like certain words, it'll just, yeah, it's a bit funny, but you get past that and you get the
Yeah.
knowledge and the information. So it is still worth listening to. So I will share that in the description box below. So if you want to have a listen to that and learn more about the Akashic Records, you're welcome to. So I just wanted to say that the word acacia is actually a Sanskrit word and it means ether or primary substance. And I wanted to add that in because it's always interesting to hear where certain words come from, their source, whether it's Latin or Sanskrit or wherever it comes from. And that's what the Akashic Records are. It's like a database of information that's in the ether. Now, Edgar Cayce was a very religious man. He was very passionate about the Bible and read it and reread it so many times throughout his life. And in the Bible, like I remember at one point, he was a little bit confused because reincarnation and karma and the Akashic records and other things were coming up in his readings. And he was confused as to why they weren't mentioned in the Bible. So he went back and reread it from that perspective. And then he started to find little symbols and little clues as to where it was actually mentioned, but just in a more hidden kind of way. So in the Bible, it's mentioned the book of life, and Edgar Cayce interpreted this to be the Akashic records. So yeah, I thought that was just an interesting little
I,
tidbit.
I never knew where that came from. So I thought that's really interesting that it's
Yeah,
Sanskrit. Yeah, that traces
yeah.
back to that.
So yeah, acacia is a Sanskrit word. It's very, very interesting. So I just kind of wanted to give a general description of,
Overview.
yeah, the description and an overview of what the Akashic records are. So when I just did a little search, this is what came up from Wikipedia. In the religion of Theosophy and the spiritual movement of Anthroposophy, so I just want to just add in there. So Anthroposophy is the study of Rudolf Steiner, and Theosophy. Oh my God,
Philosophy.
Theosophy.
I know. They're tongue twisters.
Oh my goodness. So Theosophy is the work of Helena Blavatsky. So they're very, very interesting. What are they? Scientific studies?
There's spiritual science,
Spiritual
basically.
science. That's
The
right.
spiritual science. Yep.
And yeah, I mean, we're learning more and more about that and how all of that relates. And it's very, very important information. Once you actually understand it, you're like, wow, everybody needs to learn this. At least that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so in the religion of Theosophy and the spiritual movement of Anthroposophy, the Akashic records are believed to be a compendium of all universal events, thoughts, words, emotions, and intent ever to have occurred in the past, present, or future, regarding not just humans, but all entities and life forms. They are believed by
Theosophist.
Theosophist, Theos- to be encoded in a non-physical plane of existence known as the mental plane. Like, wow.
That's yeah, that's it just basically is a recording of everything.
Hmm.
It's like God's records,
Yeah,
universal records, cosmic record of everything.
yeah. It's like a database that's in
A
space.
cosmic database. Can you
Yeah,
call it a cosmic database? Yeah.
cosmic database. Absolutely fascinating. So, what kind of information is in the Akashic Records? Well, according to Cayce, there is information about our past lives, our soul agreements, karmic imbalances, different emotional traumas, any spiritual gifts that we might have, our life purpose, and future probabilities. But in brackets, not fixed destiny because we do have free will.
And
So,
Edgar Cayce really was big about free will. He talked
mhm.
about it in a lot of his readings,
Yeah,
that free will is really important. And in the decision making of that to apply it is also very important. So yeah, interesting.
it is. And so I believe that's also why when we come into the earth plane, we have made the agreement to not remember everything. We don't remember all of our past lives. We don't, know the Akashic records, even though everybody can access this information. You just have to learn how to do it. But we don't necessarily remember it all if we don't go looking for it, because that is because of free will, because we can't practice free will in quite the same way if we were to remember all of this information, because we'd already know what we're doing here. And the whole point, it's like an experiment. It's like a little game that you come down here and you're going to experiment and see what comes up. See, and when your life ends, you're going to kind of weigh it up and say, right, did I learn the things that I wanted to learn? Did I do well? Did I, make some mistakes? Come back and try that one again. Come back with that person, learn that lesson again. So,
Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah.
what's really cool about the Akashic Records is that, like I said, everybody can learn how to tap into them. I haven't actually done it myself, but since I've been doing some more research into it, I'm kind of really intrigued now. And I think if you're going into it for the right intentions, it's extremely helpful because so I have, yeah, sorry, you go, Jennifer.
No, that's okay. Casey goes into about your frequency and your
Uh-huh.
level of consciousness. And um, to be, if you want to do research for yourself, that's one thing, but you can't run up. He talked about the strict keepers of the Akashic records.
Yes.
So I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself
No,
because
no,
what we're
that's
getting
perfect.
into is how Edgar Cayce did his readings on these people, and he would really heal them and help them with their physical disabilities or illnesses, all types of different things. He visited their Akashic record, their book of life, to get the answers that they were seeking.
Yes. And so people can do that for you as well. There are people out there that can access your Akashic record, but you need to get consent in order to do that.
And know your practitioner.
Yeah, yeah. You want to know who you're giving consent to.
I mean, yeah, to me, my personal opinion, I mean, if you're going to have a reading done by somebody, try to get somebody word of mouth or
Yeah.
at least meet them, encounter them, get a vibe from them because there's just a lot of people out. Just know your practitioner.
Mhm. Yeah, because you
And
don't want anybody messing
there's a
about with
lot of
your.
people out, yeah, there's a lot of people out there that'll just, yeah, or they might not necessarily be visiting the Akashics, or it could be things they're just pulling out of the air. Like there are some people out there that do past life readings.
Mhm.
So you can come across some tarot card readers that might cover that too. But you would, yeah, want a past life reading if you were looking into something like that. But yeah, know your practitioner. That's all. Just want to
Yeah,
say
no,
that.
absolutely. I agree. That's very, very important. But better yet, just doing a little bit of practice and learning how to do this yourself, you can access your own anytime.
And he
And
teaches. Yeah, he teaches that in his books, in the books that have been written. He teaches you
Yes.
how to access your own Akashic records, for sure.
Yeah. And, just to help support people on this journey if they're interested, I'm also going to make a recording, a meditation to help you to access them, help to get you into the right vibration so that you can access them. So yeah, I find that really interesting, Jennifer, that he says that you need to get into the right vibration to access the Akashic records. So why do you think that might be?
So what was interesting in when he does the meditation and then he does like a 7 year question cycle with it. Like
Uh-huh.
every 7 years you evaluate, like you write down present day and then you think where you'll be in 7 years and then that 7 years comes, you revisit it. But you all do this through meditation
Uh-huh.
is one section of it. But another one he does where is it's breathing and releasing the tension out of your body, and then you
Hmm.
breathe in like light and happiness, and then you like let the tension go in your body. But he'll even like talk about now freeze your body up,
Hmm.
tense your body all up again, and tell me how you feel, because and then go through and release all that tension. And that's how you learn to release the tension in your body to be able to get into that state of mind.
Yeah.
So it's a lot about tension in the body, I think. Because, we're all stressed. Everyone, we have our lives, our children drop off, um, dinner, work, football games. It's endless what we all have to do on all of us in everyday life. So that tension holds in our bodies. So I think that was a
Wow.
really interesting thing that I picked up from one of those books was that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, another person that I was listening to, just out of curiosity, that covers Akashic Records as well, is a lady called Linda Howe. I can share that below, but she mentioned a special prayer that you can say to help access the Akashic Records, and like an opening prayer and a closing prayer that you can say just to kind of get you to kind of ask for permission to kind of to do that and to open yourself up, open up your mind to get into that right vibration. So I thought that was really, really interesting. I mean, there's obviously quite a few different ways to do it.
Yeah.
And I guess it's probably like anything, you've just got to kind of maybe just experiment and see what works best for you. But why would you want to access your Akashic records? I think is a good question. And I think that, these things that are listed here, understanding your past lives and different soul agreements that you've had, and trying to understand any like karmic imbalances that you have. I mean, think about people that you work with, maybe family members that you've got issues with, children. We have difficulties with our children because our children like to press our buttons and really bring up the stuff that really triggers us. So it's really amazing when you do tap into this information and you understand, oh, okay, so maybe this person at work is really triggering me and irritating me because in a past life, I did something to them and now it's kind of playing out in this time so I can see what it's like, anything like that. And that kind of gives you a feeling of empowerment instead of feeling like I'm just a victim in this life and people are picking on me. It kind of just gives you a deeper understanding of, oh, okay, so in that life, I did such and such in this life. And now I can choose how I want to respond to this person, how I can react. And what I find is very interesting as well is that if you choose to, because we have free will, so it's our choice whether we want to deal with that difficult relationship or not. If we do work on it and come to a resolution with somebody, then that's healing that. So we won't have to repeat that again. But if we don't work on those relationships, then we have to come back and we have to do it again. And it's so interesting because in the books there's quite a few examples that are given of people that have had different lives and their past lives are talked about and explains why they have certain difficulties now. And there's differences between people that have worked on it, and then there are people that have just kind of ignored it, and it's like, oh, we're gonna have to come back and do that one again.
Yeah, the sisters that they were talking about, I found very interesting.
Same.
And um, this was in the Akashic Records book that Paula will link the description below. But
Mhm.
they basically, this woman had just so much turmoil in her family, and she found out that their feud had went back like thousands of years.
Yeah.
And um, basically, she figured a lot of things out and learned a lot from it. And to make a long story short, in the end of this turbulent, full life of sister debating and chaos, they ended up being like best friends in the end.
Yeah, it was
And I
really
think the one,
beautiful.
yeah, and I think the one sister told her, I hope we're sisters again someday.
Yeah, I know. That
So
was
it
just
was
like,
like,
oh,
so they worked out thousands of years of all this stuff finally to not have to come back and repeat that.
isn't
So
that
that was
crazy?
mind blowing. I was like,
Yeah.
wow. And then there was a guy that went to a reading, had a reading by Casey that had basically an arch nemesis. And Casey talked specifically about a past life where they were hand to hand combat on a battlefield. And the
Mhm.
one guy cut his hand between his thumb and his forefinger. And when they would get in their debates after the guy had that reading done, he would watch and he'd see the scar become visible on his hand. Do you remember more about that story? Because I was trying to remember, because I think they ended up being friends too. Like
Uh-huh.
the one was like, I'm going to take all of this and just turn this around because this is, again, tons and hundreds of years just of fighting. And we don't even won't know why we're even fighting anymore.
I know, it's just so crazy, but just hearing that and understanding why it's happening is just so,
So,
so fascinating. Oh, we're just breaking up a little bit there, Jennifer. Can you hear me still? Oh, yeah, there we go. But yeah, and another story that I found really interesting was about the potential of there was like a little boy that had the potential to become, I can't remember what, like a president or something like that. But his parents had a very toxic relationship, and they just kept breaking up and getting back together and breaking up and getting back together. And then the little boy was moved about so much, and then he was going to go to a school, like a boarding school, and then the mum changed her mind at the last minute, and then he went to go live with his auntie, and he was really happy living with his auntie, and he should have just stayed there, but the mum was like, no, no, I want him back, I want him back. And she just, oh my gosh, it was just messy as. And so this little boy didn't end up reaching the full potential. Not that I'm saying it's completely the parents' fault, but I think because they got this reading done when he was very just born, I believe.
and I want to interrupt you. I'm sorry. It's interesting that adult parents took their children to have
Yeah.
Casey read them,
Yes,
do
and this happened
do a
quite a
life
lot.
reading. Yeah, please continue with him because I have another story about a 3-year-old little boy he read.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just think that's really, really fascinating that, yeah, they wanted to get this reading on him and have this potential for him. But then, even with that knowledge, they didn't nurture him. They just kept getting together, breaking up, moving, chopping and changing. And this poor little boy just, and then his dad was absent for quite a while. And it was just, yeah, a bit of a mess. So he didn't end up reaching his full potential. And I mean, that's okay. It's just, maybe it'll happen again in another life. But I'm just blown away by the way that karma works. And it's actually a little bit different to what I thought doing this
So,
research.
yeah, so according to Casey, he describes karma as cause and effect,
Uh-huh.
action and reaction, and also the soul's memory.
Yes.
So that will lead me into my next story. This is another child situation. So when this little boy was 3 years old, he started wetting the bed.
Yes,
So
that story.
his parents, have you heard this one? So
Yeah.
his parents took him to different psychologists, psychiatrists, different, up to his life. Well, it still just kept going on. Well, they had heard about Edgar Cayce, and I said, well, we're going to give this guy a try. So I can't, I think he was roughly, I don't know, he was a little older than 3, but he might have been like 8 or 9 or maybe even 11
Yeah,
years old.
I think it got to around maybe
Excuse
the
me.
age of 9 or 10
He
or
was
something, and
older
it's still
and he
still wetting the bed.
still wetting the bed. So Casey went up to the Akashics, did a life reading on this young boy, and said that he was basically an executioner and he would strap the witches in their chairs and drown them. And that was his guilt coming through in this lifetime. So he wrote up like an affirmation for the mother to read to him every night before he went to bed. And he read it, and it was really kind of sad. It's like, I am a kind person was like the first thing. So here he was holding this in his subconscious this entire time.
Yeah.
And so it worked. It
Yeah.
worked. So
And
the
isn't
mother
that
read it she read it for a certain period, and then after that he never wet the bed anymore.
and what's fascinating is that she had to read it just as he was about to fall asleep. So he's
Yes,
getting
that was
into
his
that
instructions.
hypnotic state. And it was,
Thank you for mentioning that. You're
yeah.
right, because it
Mhm.
so that would stick into that level of plane of where his mind was at, where that guilt was coming at, right? That makes
That's
sense.
right.
I just picked that up. Just, yeah. We're
Yeah, and
all
because
learning
it's
here
this,
together.
we are absolutely, and it's a suggestion. And this is where I just think hypnosis is so powerful because the things it can do, of course, hypnosis can be used for bad as well. We know all about that, but
Yeah.
it could be used for so much good and to help people. I mean, that's what helped Edgar Cayce get his voice back was through hypnotic
Yes.
suggestion. So it's very, very powerful. Another story that I'd really love to share is, which I just thought was so fascinating, to understand that when we have things in our lives that are going quite well for us, things that might come easily to us, it seems to almost be like, I mean, this is not his words, this is my words, saying that it's almost like a reward for things that you did well and coming from a place of love. I can see you getting all excited, but I'll just quickly share that I found it really interesting that there was one lady that was a hand model and she had the most beautiful hands and she was, well desired for, nail polish and rings and modeling for all kinds of things because she had the most beautiful hands. And it was because in a past life, I believe she was a nun and she did so much work with her hands and she did it with so much love, coming from a place of love, that all of that beauty and love went into her hands in her next life, and then she was able to become a very successful, highly paid hand model. I just think that's absolutely incredible. So it's like maybe if money comes easily to you, or beauty, or different things come quite easily to you, maybe that's because you made some really good decisions or did certain things with love in the past life.
Yes, it's the reward.
Hmm.
I mean, there are rewards to the karma as well. Because
Yeah,
I
it's not
think
just all
he
bad.
was trying to, yeah, because one thing he really tried to do was guide people from their past life skills into present day life. There was one gal he did a life reading on. And remember, everyone, this is like in 1910, 1920, 1930. This was so long ago
Yeah.
that these people were curious about this type of stuff. But he mentioned to one woman that she ended up being a commercial, I think in marketing or something,
Uh-huh.
but he talked about like her jobs during many years ago that she did, that she could apply all these skills. And if these people would like take his advice, they'd become extremely successful and they
Yeah.
would love what they do.
Yes.
And so he really would, even like these children, I can't believe all these, I'm finding out about all these kids he read, and I'm just mind blown. And I'm like, I can't wait to hear more about some of these readings, because he would guide these parents. Hey, this is what he was in a past life. This is what he did. It was pretty serious stuff. So
Hmm.
you might want to try to guide him and make sure he understands. Like, for example, this one guy, was kind of tyrant back during a civilization that was long, long ago and caused a lot of destructive things happen. And he was telling the parents in this lifetime, you got to make sure you guide him right because he could create something very catastrophic. So it's
Yeah.
interesting. He ended up going to the military and all this stuff, and he had tons of options to be on to be on the coordinated with to build these catastrophic components, but he took the other path and he kept
Yes.
diverting and which ended up being the Hiroshima and Nagasaki attacks
Yes,
back in
that's
World War
right.
II, I believe. So
Mhm.
very interesting. So he helped a lot of people re-correct on some of their serious karma from past times.
Yeah, and that just goes to show that this is actually really important. This is actually a
Yeah,
tool that we can use, and it's actually important that we do use this tool because we can make some really important decisions. Or if we don't have this knowledge, we can make some really bad decisions and
yeah,
really cause a lot
yeah.
more work for ourselves. And yeah, I love that parents were so open to it back then. And
And I'm assuming,
people were so open to it. I mean, when there was newspaper articles about the work that Edgar Cayce was doing, people were writing to him, sending him money. He had to hire somebody at some point to help read all of these letters that he was receiving.
yes.
So it's so cool to hear that even back then in the early 1900s, people were so open to this kind of thing.
People were open to the holistic part of it 100%. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's too bad. I wish he would I wish that hospital would have took off. I think how different our healthcare system would be if they would have kind of adapted some of his readings into modern to, shaped it into help people
yeah,
instead of the
absolutely.
opposite. Yeah.
But hopefully, as we move forward and people wake up to what's been going on in the world, the way that things have been run in a way that's
Yeah.
not really helping us or support us in a holistic way, hopefully more people are going to be interested in this information and want to help do things in a better way. I mean, even things like homeopathy, I am very passionate about homeopathy. I think it's very, very powerful. Mainly because I've used it so much, especially on my daughters as well as myself. Like, for example, when my girls were little and they were babies and they were teething, you want to be really careful what kind of products you're using when they're babies because they're so, vulnerable and you don't want to be putting all these toxic chemicals into their body. So I used, we've got a particular brand over here in Australia called Brower. I know there's also Bark Remedies as well. So there's a couple of different people. Bark did the flower essences, but flower essences and homeopathy are they're different, but they're similar. But they're just so powerful. And people will say, oh, it's just expensive water or it's just, rubbish stuff. But no, this stuff is incredible. And I used it for my girls, especially colds and flus, and my girls were rarely sick because the way homeopathy works is it's actually working on a vibrational level. It's healing emotional issues as well as physical issues. And it's
Interesting.
it's what it's actually doing is it's actually helping your immune system to fight back, to strengthen. So, every time my girls got a little bit of a cold or a runny nose, I'd give them the Brower cold and flu drops and it was building up their immune system. So as they got older, other kids I know would just be sick all the time, and they were just very rarely sick, and still are. They still are very rarely sick. So
Yeah.
it's really really powerful, and I think practices like that really need to come back. But it's not a big money maker, so that's why it's not really happening.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a little gal I know that's about an hour from me, and she does a lot of oils now that you're mentioning this. And she had one that was called Immunity.
Hmm.
And I remember rolling that on my throat and on my when I had a certain job where I was in contact with people all the time and I was just kind of worried about the germ thing. I was kind of always have kind of been a little bit of a germaphobe, but I remember putting that on my neck and just to keep it. So I wonder if it was the same thing, similar. Where did you apply it for your girls?
So you homeopathy either usually comes in these little teeny tiny little white sugar balls. So it's like the
Oh, very
drops are
different.
placed in these teeny tiny little called pastilles, and they're just teeny tiny little white balls, and you'll just take a few of them, or it comes in a drop form, and you just put the drop under your tongue,
Like a
and that's
tincture.
and for the girls when they were like little babies, I just mix it into their milk, just give them a bottle of milk, and yeah, just mix
That's
it into that.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
and
so
it's
interesting.
just so amazing. And you can use it for anything like hay fever, headaches, anything like
Wow.
that. It's just so, yeah. And what I love about it is if you go see a homeopathy practitioner, then they kind of they kind of do like almost like a quiz to kind of get to know your personality and what things kind of need correcting. So, because there's so many remedies that are designed to help on an emotional and spiritual level as well as the physical issues. So even like personality things maybe being defiant or difficult or things like that, like it's just, yeah, homeopathy is a big it's a big
That's
thing to get
interesting.
into, but it's
Yeah.
just I'm so fascinated by it. I was actually studying naturopathy probably about 10 years ago now, and homeopathy was only a small part of the naturopathic course, and I actually wanted to do the full homeopathy course, but they cancelled it because they weren't getting enough people doing it.
Oh,
So it's a
but
shame, like kind of a dying
yeah,
thing.
yeah, there's now the knowledge is there somewhere. But
Mhm.
it's interesting because one thing Edgar Cayce mentioned, he would send a lot of people to osteopaths. And I think it's interesting the word pathy,
Yeah.
osteopathy, homeopathy.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
there's something I'll have to look up the root term of pathy. I mean, I have a general idea what it could be, but I think there's something to that. That might be a good holistic episode to do on Edgar Cayce, is all the holistic stuff he advised to do people, even people with cerebral palsy and people that were
Yeah.
blind regained some of their sight back and things like that.
Yeah. It's just incredible the different
Yeah,
remedies that we have out there that are just
yeah,
so
that are
hidden
just that
or lost.
exactly
Some's
lost,
hidden,
hidden,
but some's lost as well.
but not forgotten. We
Yes.
all have it up here. We really do, I think, especially for our own self, you know.
But another story I really wanted to share that I think is really important and can share a really important message of love and why it's important to do things coming from a place of love is I only just heard this just this morning actually, was that Ed Casey did a reading on a lady that was really struggling to make friends and had a bit of a bad reputation as being a bit of a floozy or a flirt with the boys, and girls didn't really like that about her. And apparently, she was a girl to, have fun with, but not take home to your mum. And so she had a reading with Edgar Cayce because she, obviously this really upset her. I mean, it would. And basically, what had happened is that in a past life, she was actually a prostitute, but she was kind of doing it more from like a selfish kind of perspective to just kind of get what she wanted and money and things like that. And then quite a few years later, another lady comes to Edgar Cayce who has, she doesn't have an issue with having friends. Everybody loves her, and they nicknamed her the Angel because she's just such a beautiful personality. And what's funny is that she also was a prostitute in her past life, but the difference was she was doing it from a place of love, of really wanting to help give companionship to men that didn't, really have that or weren't getting their needs met in their marriage or, whatever. So I
It's
just
so
think that
wild to me.
it's wild, but isn't that amazing that like
Wow.
if you
What a
do
perspective.
something, it doesn't matter what you do. Like, we judge in this day and age, oh, being a prostitute, no, that's a disgusting thing to do, or whatever negative thoughts you have about that. It's frowned upon and it's looked down upon. But obviously, that lady she might have just been in a situation. She might not have had family or any money to support her. And she's like, well, the best thing I can do to support myself is to become a prostitute. And the fact that she did it from a place of love means that, she was rewarded for that in this life. And
Yes,
it goes to
that's
show,
so good point.
it
It
doesn't
reminds me of
matter who you are, what you're doing. It's
love.
how you're doing it. Like you could have 10 kids, and if you're resenting them and hating them and getting angry at them and coming from a place of, oh, why do I have to look after all these kids, then that's setting up negative things for and karma for future lives. But then if you're coming from a place of love and doing the best you can and just wanting to help people in any way you can, help your children become the best people that they can, then you're greatly rewarded for that. And so I don't know about you, Jennifer, but learning all this stuff about the Akashic Records and karma is kind of like, wow, I really, there's a few relationships here and there and a few people in the past that might have hurt me that I'm held a bit of anger towards. And I'm like, I would like to kind of change and my attitude towards that and kind of work on some healing some relationships.
Yeah, it does. When you even if I, for example, my sister and I, um, we had maybe 15 to 18 years of not really speaking much
Mhm.
and kind of really being at opposite ends to each other. And even in the last like 2 or 3 years, we've actually come around and we're quite good friends now.
Oh,
And
so
I
good.
was just in it, even go like studying this Akashic information and Casey's readings and this stuff. I just kind of was thinking about a lot of evaluation in my own life
Yeah.
and how different relationships have really either suppressed me, angered me, terrified me, made me grow, or made me rethink things, or how it's all been such a learning lesson. And then I've kind of been, and I'm not dwelling on it too much, but I'm like, this is all for a reason where I'm supposed to
Yeah.
be in this mindset. I'm supposed to be going through this. I'm supposed to be learning from this. So I felt really good that my sister and I have come to a place of where we're sisters again.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, thank God, maybe I won't have to come back and deal with that again, you know?
Yeah.
Nor will
Absolutely.
she. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. It's so important to know that and to understand that. We
Yeah.
just had a couple more slides that we wanted to share with you all about what some that came up in some of the readings that Edgar Cayce had done, where people are asking about the information or it's just come up in the readings. So with
Yeah.
this
Because they're like,
one,
how are
sorry.
you getting this information, Edgar Cayce? Everybody's like, hey, how are you getting this information, Edgar? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
when he went into the hypnotic trance, and then, somebody would be there to ask questions or make hypnotic suggestions, he was able to tap into the Akashic records of the person. And he obviously had consent of that person to access their information. And so that's very important too. Like, you don't want to just be going looking up other people's books because, well, the guides that are there, they're not going to let you anyway, are
They're
they?
not going to let you. Yeah, they will not let you. They will
Yeah.
kick you out.
Yeah, because unless you've got consent, you're not allowed to look up other people's information. And so anybody that wants to be a bit nosy can't do that.
And if, yeah,
But yeah, so basically, there was somebody had asked him question, the book of life is, and the answer was the record that the individual entity itself writes upon the skein of time and space through patience, and is opened when self has attuned to the infinite, and may be read by those attuning to that consciousness. So it's like when we're living our lives and having our experience, we're writing, well, our higher self has written this information, and when we get into the right consciousness, the right vibration, then we are able to tap into that and access that to use it as a tool to help us with our everyday life. And yeah, it's just kind of interesting. I'd heard about the Akashic record years ago, but for some reason I just wasn't really drawn to finding out that much about it. And now I'm just like, damn it, 10 years ago, this could have been so
now
much helpful.
now is the time.
But yes,
we're all spiritually evolving at our own pace, and we're all at
absolutely.
different things of different interest to us at different times. And it's just important to just be open to learn as much as you can. But what I find interesting is how much Casey cross references every religion out there.
Uh-huh.
And there's like a big segment of how he goes into all the different religions and how he correlates his readings with it. So it's just, yeah, the more you know, just keep learning and be open to all of it. And Casey isn't the only one that talked about the Akashic Records. This isn't um, a new thing, but it's other mystics have left this information. So it's really interesting.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. And also I think, when you do come across it and feel the need to explore it, that just means it's the right time for you. So obviously,
Yes.
earlier in my life, it just wasn't the right time. So that's why I wasn't drawn to explore that
Yeah, you
deeper,
had
but
little
now it is.
babies.
Mhm.
You had your little babies.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty busy. And I was
A
very
pretty busy
busy.
time for, yeah, when you got children. That's like, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was also learning a lot about angels back then. And I think
Oh, I see.
they really helped me. I used to read a lot of Doreen Virtue books. I remember sometimes I would even read some of her books, especially this fairy book. I would read that while I was putting her to sleep, putting my girls to sleep, and I would just read
I
her book.
love that.
Yeah, because they like hearing your voice. They don't really care what you're reading. They just
Yeah.
like hearing your voice. And so I would just read it out loud and I'm like, awesome. I get to read what I want to read. But it was kid
Yeah,
friendly,
that's
obviously.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame Doreen Virtue doesn't have all of those books available anymore, but luckily I
Yeah.
bought some
I'm glad you
before
did.
all of that happened. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's a different topic for a different day.
Yes. Moving back to Casey's readings.
Yes.
The Book of God Remembrances is answer. This is the Book of Life. Question. The Akashic Records are answer. Those made by the individual as just indicated. Reading 25338.
So I'm interested, Jennifer. I've not really heard of the I've heard of the Book of Life, but I've not heard of the Book of God Remembrances. Have you
I
heard of
think
that?
that's what I think that's what Casey describes as also being the Akashic record.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I actually wrote that down. It was in the Akashic, the one book we both listened to. He also called it the God's Book of Remembrances. Now I
Uh-huh.
don't know if that's something from another religion. It could be. Um, it could, but yeah, it's something. There's another, like I said, there's other this reincarnation cycle, this book of life, this Akashic record is throughout different cultures
Yeah.
and different religions across all the ancient worlds and current worlds. It's kind of hidden a little more than we think because it's all symbolic. And if we don't understand this, we're not going to see the symbolism in it.
That's right. Yeah. And you
Yeah.
wouldn't even notice it. See, that's why, like Ed
No.
Cayce, he didn't even notice it, even though he'd read the Bible so many times. But then once
Yeah,
he started getting
he
this
had to really,
information,
yeah. He's like, why aren't they talking about reincarnation in the Bible?
yeah,
Yeah.
they had to dig deeper.
Yep.
So another reading that came up was the Akashic record may be said to be destiny in the entrance of a soul into materiality. That was from reading 903-23.
Which is deep because all these things from your past you're pulling into present day existence.
Mm-hmm.
So all your fears materialize, all your sadness emotions materialize back again.
Yeah.
So it's really deep
Mm-hmm.
with that.
Do you want to
The
read the next one?
purpose, I'll do the next one. Yep, I'm sorry, I was just cutting you off, just reading it already. Sorry. The purposes for each soul's experience in materiality are that the book of remembrance may be opened, that the soul may know its relationship to its maker.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And it's
Yeah.
almost like, I think. it's only just occurred to me just recently that I don't think the Akashic Records are supposed to be kept from us. I feel like this is a way for us to get to know God at a deeper level,
Yeah,
to know our
yeah.
Creator. And yeah, the fact that it's being quite hidden from us is a shame because it's a tool that we can use to really have a deeper understanding of why we're here.
Well, they don't want that. They want us to be in this robotic mindset of like a hamster in a wheel, kind of, and just doing our thing and exploring ourselves because they don't, because the human race is a pretty cool thing when you really dig deep into all of it,
Yeah.
and what spirituality is, or the cosmic mind is, however you want to look at it, and that this is just an experience. I think that's really important. I think a lot of people would lighten up if they knew that, we were eternal and that we were here to learn and
Yeah,
all of
it's
that
just
stuff.
a game, it's an experience.
Yeah.
But it's,
It's a
when
horrible one at times too.
yeah,
I
it's a
mean, it's
horrible one at times, and when
yeah.
we're here, it's so real, it's
Yeah.
and if you try and say to somebody it's all an illusion, they're just like, okay, you nuts.
Yeah. And it sounds nutty,
Yeah,
100%.
it does, yeah.
So,
And another question that somebody had asked was, Akashic records are recorded on the ether. Then cannot an instrument be invented to induct ether and thus tap in on the Akashic records? Now, Edgar Cayce's answer was, this may be done. Eventually, it will be, from reading 4435. And I was like, I have to share that. That is so cool. So it's like, I mean, we do have the ability to do this. You've just got to do a little bit of training and, meditate, get into the right vibration. But just imagine if somebody invented a tool like the, Teslas of the world, that kind of,
yeah,
I mean, Tesla had so many incredible inventions of free energy and so much amazing stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like that could invent something that could literally just tap in and be like, like you do with ChatGPT, you could just tap into your Akashic record and be like, yeah, what's my
I
purpose?
would not see, and I gotta be honest with you. I'm gonna go against Casey's reading here
Uh-huh.
because I
Uh-huh.
never want that to happen.
Well,
I
that's
think that this I think that this is part of artificial intelligence. I think that
yeah.
just like Elon Musk created that thing where it could like latch into people's brains that had certain diseases.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, are they trying to tap into the human consciousness and take that over? I'm just kind of side-eyeing that. So I don't know if Casey saw this in the future or if Casey saw this in his past lives, which we'll get into later on down the road. Because
Mm,
Casey, his past lives are really fascinating stuff.
yeah.
And he saw a lot of technology in the past. So I know that he was one that really was against, or not, he really spoke sternly about AI. He was very worried about computers and things because it's
Yeah.
taken away our thinking on so many levels. So I think that that's interesting. I think that's very
Yeah.
interesting. That's just my take on it. I had to give my 2 cents.
Oh, absolutely. That's such an important point that you have brought up because I'm thinking, oh, yeah, it'd be so cool if we can tap into our own Akashic records. But then I'm not thinking, but does that mean that people could access anybody's? And
Exactly.
and that's,
And
whereas
it,
at least
it,
the way it's set up now, there's guardians then. You can't go into somebody else's unless you've got consent. So
and if they come up with a machine or something and said, okay, we're going to clip this on your head and you're going to go to the Akashic Records, is that really the records? Or are they infiltrating? Like, I think about these virtual reality video
yes.
games and things like that.
Yeah.
I, I'm,
And
I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna stick with my own self and consciousness, I think.
yeah,
So I
because
think
just
maybe I should try
imagine.
to, yeah. So I think it's important we talk about this for some reason. I don't know. It's just,
Well, if you think about like ChatGPT, for example, or any of the AI tools that you use, the more you use it, the more it gets to know you and your personality and how you work.
that's what
So
I've
just
heard.
yeah, so then just imagine if there was an instrument that had been invented and then, it's gotten to know you so well, so then it can say, right, it can make up an Akashic record book about your life and say, oh yeah, you've had these past life experiences, you've had all that, this and that, and that might not even actually be your real record.
Yeah,
So that's
that's true.
scary to think about, isn't it?
That's true. Yeah, because I know a lot of I don't really use a lot of AI. I mean, I try to write my own stuff. Sometimes I use it to help me write some things, but
Uh-huh.
for the most part, no. Because I always think I'm like, well, that's kind of making our intelligence artificial. If we're
Yeah,
constantly looking into it doing it for us, it's like taking away our thought process a little bit, I think. And
yes,
so I'm like, well, so yeah, I think the whole getting things connected to your heads and even these robots and the consciousness of these robots, where's that coming from? Because that's got to be programmed in. And they
yeah.
talk about how our brains are so computerized. Programming can be done on our brains so easily, obviously. But just how we're like a computer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that is quite scary actually when you think about
I
that. I
know now I'm
mean,
like, oh my gosh, talk about I didn't mean to be a Debbie Downer in the
no,
Cayce
but
series,
I
but it
think
kind of turned that way.
I think it's an important topic to cover though, because
Yeah.
we do need to be aware of this and the effects that it's having. I mean, I don't use AI a whole lot either. Sometimes it can be helpful for different things, and sometimes I'll use it to just quickly make a post or something about something because it can save time for that. But we do have to be careful that we're not like you're saying, like it could help you a little bit with writing, but it's still going to be you, because we're not developing those skills. It's like I came across this video the other day on YouTube that said, reading books rewires your brain. And I kind of thought for a minute, I didn't mean to be mean, but I was like, well, duh. But
Yeah.
then I suppose that's new because people aren't thinking about that. But of course, reading is using your brain. I also watched this other fascinating this lady who was talking about how when you're doing things with your hand, and especially when you're crossing over, like that is lighting up your brain, and it's just so important. So doing things with your hands is so incredibly important to keep your brain functioning well, especially as you're getting older. So for anybody out there that does not have a hobby that involves your hands, make sure you get one. I personally love to crochet. So she said like crochet and knitting is a very good one to do because you're using your hands and
Nice.
you're using both of them to do different things. And so I think it's really, really important that we are reading physical books and we are
Yeah.
doing things with our hands, whether it's cooking or gardening or doing
Coloring.
craft, coloring. Exactly. We need to be doing anything like that to keep our brain working, because it's like when they brought out calculators, like our
Yes, I can't.
parents,
And I
yeah,
am terrible at math. I
our
mean, two
parents
plus two.
could work
Yeah.
out everything in their head. And now we're all
Yes.
used to calculators and we're like, oh, what, yeah, like you just said, what's two plus two, because you can't remember
Yeah.
anymore. So for our own health, I mean, I'm not saying don't use AI because I still use it. I find it very helpful for certain things. Even like, I know a friend that uses it to help organize like her cupboards and stuff and get different ideas. It can be good for that, but if you don't want to be using it to the point where you can't make a decision,
You don't want to
or
rely on it.
yeah, you don't want to be relying on it. And
Yeah,
creativity is
yes.
so important. You don't want to be using it for your creative
I
endeavors,
think it's taken away a lot of our creativity as a race.
100%.
And I think that's a little alarming to me as well, because as a race, we are very creative.
100%. Yeah.
And
And I think we
yeah,
need that. We need that
we do
creative
need that.
outlet.
It's good creativeness, by the way.
Yes,
Yeah, it's a nourishment and a
it is.
positive release for us all.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, and especially when you're creating something and then when you finish it, I'm pretty
Yes.
basic with my crochet. I mainly make like scarves and baby blankets, but when I finish it, the finished product, you just feel so good. You're like, wow, I
Yeah.
did that, you know. And some blankets take me months to make because I've made my daughters all big blankets for their beds. And that,
Oh,
you know,
nice.
takes months and months to do because you just do a little bit each evening while you're watching TV, or sometimes I'll listen to an audiobook and I'll do it because I don't know, my brain, I need to
That's
be doing something. I can't just sit there. But it's
oh,
good because now I found out I'm lighting up different parts of my brain. So,
awesome.
yeah, really interesting, really, really interesting stuff. So, was there anything else you wanted to cover about the
No,
Akashic Record?
I think we covered
Quite a
as
bit.
much as
Yeah.
we could cover and more.
hmm And for
Yeah.
people out there, you know, look into it. Read one of Edgar Cayce's books, or there's plenty of other people on YouTube and they have meditations or different ways, different books and different things that you can learn about. Because this is a tool. I mean, I'm definitely going to start. I want to learn how to do this because I think this is a very useful tool to help me with my life and my personal growth and personal development.
So this is our last Edgar Cayce quote for the night,
Well,
or
this
for the
one's
morning for you, night for me.
Yeah, so well, this is to do with reincarnation and karma because that's what we want to cover in the next episode. So this reading is life and its expressions are one. Each soul or entity will and does return or cycle, as does nature in its manifestations about man, thus leaving, making, or presenting, as it were, those infallible, indelible truths that life is continuous. So there you go, from reading 938-1, reincarnation is real.
Yeah, definitely interesting and makes a
Yeah,
lot
so
of
we're
sense.
we're looking forward to deep diving into that next episode. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Jennifer, for staying up late
Thank you
to
for
chat to
having
me.
me. I love a little Casey talk every
Oh,
now and then.
I'm loving it too. This
Yeah.
is awesome.
And I hope everyone's finding it informative as well and
Yeah,
just thinking about it. We're not saying you have to believe it or,
no,
we just want to share the information because it is very interesting and I'm always I'm always open to learn something new and to keep, I've studied Casey for a long time and it's really, really nice to come back to a lot of his work because I forgot about it, but I didn't forget about it. So it's nice to kind of circle back a couple
is it like
decades
riding a
later.
bike?
It is like riding a bike. And there's sometimes I read his material and I'll get a headache. It's just overwhelming
Yeah, it's a
to
lot.
take in sometimes. So we just got to take it in
Little
stride.
bite-sized pieces. And that's what
Yeah.
we're trying to do with these episodes, really, is because, oh yeah, so I just found out yesterday, I think, that Edgar Cayce has covered over 10,000 different topics, which is just
Mind blowing.
mind-blowing that he covered so many different topics. So
Yeah.
we were just wanted to do this series so that we can bring you his information in bite-sized pieces. So you can listen to this, then you can process it for a little while and then you can come back when you're ready and learn some more. So yeah.
Yep. Well, thank you for having me and I look forward to more.
Yes, me too. And
More
thank
Casey
you.
talk. Yep.
And thanks
Thank you.
everybody for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye
Bye.
now.